Also important to know that it's not just realtors and realtor issues. We're really looking out for the homeowners and the consumers out there.
We're so passionate about advocating for private property rights and what that means for the consumer and what that means for our members.
There's bills every session that could literally make it impossible for me to practice as a realtor or have a job as a broker.
Welcome back to Nevada Realtors Today, your place for timely updates on the news and trends that matter to realtors in the Silver State. Now let's join your Nevada Realtors President, Brandon Roberts, and Nevada Realtors CEO, Tiffany Banks, for today's episode of Nevada Realtors Today.
Hello, we're so grateful, as usual, to have our special guests on today. We have the amazing Azim Jessa, who's our Legislative Chair, and our Nevada Realtors State Treasurer as well, and Chris Bishop, our Vice Chair of our Legislative Committee. He's also our past Nevada Realtors President. Both really, really, really great friends of mine, obviously great friends of Brandon's. And, for me as a CEO and prior as General Counsel, I've really leaned on both of you throughout the years for many decisions that I've made. You've helped guide me. And so I just want to give you guys a special thanks for that. And we know we're in such great hands this year with Legislative Committee having you.
But I also want to say we have a lot of trust in you because we're going to be turning this podcast over to you guys for the next few weeks. We're gonna pop in and out, but we have trust that you're going to keep our listenership up.
Yes.
I know Azim sure will. I don't know about me.
I don't know. As long as the liability insurance is paid up at NVR, we should be good.
And actually, it's next few months, Brandon, not next few weeks. So we actually
let's take it easy. Take it easy.
We'll be popping on here and there, but yeah. So what are you guys excited about as far as legislative sessions going?
Well, legislative sessions in week 2, and the bills have been dropping. I'm not in my office. I'm at home. But I do have a stack. Probably, I need a banana for scale, right? But it's probably a good 5 inches deep of paperwork I've already printed of all the bills that we've read through and are starting to track. And if my wife thinks I'm a little crazy, that I find that fun, but I do. I enjoy going through that stuff and learning a lot, obviously, from all our partners too that are working with us, like the legal folks and our new GAD at NVR and you, Tiffany, and just everybody. So super excited to be part of it and making sure that our industry stays healthy, that we stay in the center of real estate transactions, and that we continue to protect private property rights for all of Nevada.
Yeah, what you don't realize is it's a team effort, right? Like Chris, when you were president, were you president during a legislative year?
I wasn't supposed to be, but I ended up in one with the pandemic. But
okay.
I can definitely say that, this year is kind of special because I get to work with a group of friends and people then were friends too, but we were kind of forced into it. This time we have some prep and, planning going into it. Azim has a great team. He's a great leader for the committee. He really does know what's going on in Carson City. I think he knows almost every legislator up there, good, bad, or indifferent. But he's got his finger on the pulse of what's happening, and you guys have just done a great job of prepping him and getting it all ready. So I'm excited to see one of these flow without masks and everything being on Zoom. So I'm ready to be here.
You'd probably look better with a mask on, let's be honest.
That's true. That's true.
So when we talk about a legislative management team and we talk about, like the group of experts that we bring to the table, I think that sometimes many of our members don't know how decisions are made. And this isn't a decision that Brandon and I are getting on a call and making a decision for the whole state. In fact, it's very, very different. If anything, he and I sit back and listen more than ever. We listen to the experts. We have former Judge Saragosa, who is our chief legal counsel. And so she's very well versed in many areas of the law. We have, like you were saying, a new government affairs director, Jamie, who comes to us with 15 years of lobbying. And we have our amazing lobbying team, Jenny and Rocky, a career in Nevada that's represented us for over 20 years in just such an excellent way. They have the relationships with the legislators. They know our industry. They care. And then we have the volunteer leaders, which without the practitioners and without you all guiding the ship over what matters, what doesn't matter, what really impacts your business, what really impacts your client's business, like that's why we do what we do. So can you guys talk a little bit more about this massive team that we have and how, with so many different ideas and thoughts and feedback, how we end up
Yeah.
coming to like a consensus?
Absolutely. So, Brandon, first of all, putting together the LMT, I want to give you recognition for that, which is, I think Tiffany said this, the legislative management team, and to have a balance of people from who practice different types of real estate, property managers, commercial practitioners who under the Realtor brand. We have folks from Elko, Northern Nevada, Southern Nevada. So we have a really diverse group of people who are looking through these bills, right, to make sure that nothing gets missed. There may be something that's you know, uh, rural land use type of thing, right? Like I always joke about when I talk about the duties, the residential disclosure guide. I'm like, yeah, and here's the open range disclosure, right? Like we'll never need this in Southern Nevada. That is very important in Northern Nevada. So as much as I joke about it, I really don't know much about it, but those Northern folks can certainly, jump in and tell me why it's important. So the same thing happens in these legislative bills. Like there's stuff that I may not fully understand or is not relevant to the practice of real estate that I do, but it may be relevant to someone else in another market or another type of real estate. So again, Brandon, like thank you for putting together such a great group and being thoughtful about that process. So that's a huge help. And I'm excited to continue to work with them. We all get together. We have some good conversations. Sometimes stuff that you would think would only take 2 or 3 minutes turns into a 10-minute, 15-minute conversation. But no one can say that we're not thoroughly vetting each bill and really truly grasp what's happening.
I think a big part of it, to Azim's point, is that a lot of this comes from the bottom up. And so issues that actual practicing agents are having throughout the state affect a lot of our legislative agenda of what we're looking at. And similarly to the legislators themselves, things happen to them that affect our real estate industry and they put it into a bill. We have to read through it and make sure that it's not going to negatively affect the industry because of one occurrence that happens. But I think the one thing I got is that input from everyone is important. And if you hear something or see something or something's going on in Carson City you may not like, reach out to us first because we may already be dealing with it or discussing it or testifying on it. And a lot of times I think that you guys have done a good job this year really of bridging the communication gap of how they can interact with that process and how the information flows back to them, making sure they see the advocate and they're actually participating on their own level because everyone's opinion is important in some ways.
And the you guys are going to be giving updates on this podcast. So as the listeners tune in over the weeks, they'll kind of know what we're watching and kind of the direction things are going to, as much as we can tell them, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's a good point you bring up, Brandon. Our lobbying firm, Career Nevada, has always said, don't judge us on day 5 or 10 or 20 or 60. Like wait till day 121. And that's the truth. Like there's a lot of times publicly politicians, legislators are going to say things publicly, but in the background, they're working with us on a bill. That's how politics works, right? It's not always the prettiest. It's not always the most upfront industry. And so, they may be, riling up their constituents, working on getting reelected next time. But meanwhile, in the background, they're working with us also on making sure that, the best thing for Nevada is what's going to happen. So again, you may hear things in the news. I think we dealt with this last session with some of the rent control issues. We knew that we were working with certain legislators about things, but then, our membership was quite upset that we were not vehemently opposed or, responding to some of the fire that was thrown out there on Twitter and whatnot. And so just again, I'd ask the same thing of this NVR membership that, if you have a concern, give us a call, but don't just go public and start flaming us and blowing things up, because a lot of times, and probably more often than you would believe, there's stuff happening in the background. And we'll work through it, and the end result will be good, right? It's like sausage. Nobody wants to know what goes into it, but on the end of the day, it tastes pretty decent.
And I think more and more what we found, Brandon, especially this last year, is you actually the members and others actually want to know more about what's happening. Like they actually, we think you just want to hear about an end result or just trust us, but they're like, no, we actually want to hear the good and the bad. So the more we can communicate, and I think that's the idea and the goal of, again, having you guys on every single week, because everything does move so fast. And at the end of session, if we just go in and we say, because already I think we're tracking, there's been 500 bills that have dropped. There's going to be a total of at least 1,000. And, we could go in and we could say, we monitored X amount of bills. This is what passed. This is what didn't. But if you're in the trenches with us each week and we are able to share, to an extent of what's going on that week, then you might have far more of a buy-in as a listener to following that bill or following, like, to see what the end result is, and either, rooting us on, or, being there if something fails, which we don't like to fail, so that's not going to happen. But there's compromise and understanding all these things, which I think you guys will be able to really relay from week to week, kind of what those things look like.
Yeah, and we want you guys to be involved. I think, was it Chris that you just said this a minute ago? Some of our legislation comes from membership. Last session, we had that 40-year brokerage agreement, right? There was that brokerage firm running around. They're from out of state, signing people up for a 40-year brokerage agreement and then giving them, $2,000 or $3,000. And they were just unfortunately taking advantage of people who didn't know, or maybe were in some sort of financial hardship. And I heard about that from an agent in my office. Billy Alt came to me. He's like, "Hey, I was just about to take this listing. It's a VA, a veteran, and he gave me this piece of paperwork, and it was a brokerage agreement that this gentleman was already listed with this other person and had to pay, whatever the commission was if he was to sell the house, regardless of who he sold it through." And we started hearing more and more about that, and fortunately, we were able to get that through the legislature, and they banned that practice. So, consumer protection is obviously a big issue of ours, and we want to make sure that we're caring for our community. And that came to us through you guys out there, through the membership. That's not something that was on our radar until someone called us one day and told us about it.
Yeah, that's a great point. We didn't plan on carrying or working on a bill like that at all. And that ended up being, I'd say, one of the larger success stories, that as soon as we passed that legislation, other states immediately started reaching out, asking for our language, how we went about it, because it was a big issue in many states. It's just sometimes various states don't know how to take it on. And that's what you look to other states to see, oh, you've passed that, or it's failed, and why has it failed? How can we make it better?
Yeah.
I think it's important to remind everybody too that we stay in our lane of private property rights and real estate related bills. I mean, we may look at more bills that have an effect on them, and that's what the big part of the legislative management team is to do, is to kind of see how they relate these different industries, like Azim said. But we may have subgroups within our organization that really only care about property management versus the entire board of pieces that we have. And so this legislative team role is to make sure that all licensees, and more importantly, all realtors, can practice their business in the state and protect their clients. And so that's what I love about the organization. I love about what we do is, we don't pick fights on other battlefields. We stay on ours. And that's why I think you guys have such a great track record, is that you're putting your energies where it's needed most.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also important to know that it's not just realtors and realtor issues. We're really looking out for the homeowners and the consumers out there with private property rights. And so that's really what we're fighting for all the way through.
Keith Lynham says it well. Like, we fight for tenants too, right? Like, I think that's sometimes missed in this conversation, is that we recognize, we need tenants, we need investors, we need a healthy, balanced housing market. I say in orientation all the time, there's military folks that are only here for a year or two. Maybe they're not in a position, or it's just not the right move for them to buy a house, right? We have contractors working here. We have my daughter's 18. At some point, I want her to move out, right? She needs to move somewhere. Her first home is probably going to be a rental. So we need rental housing, and so we want to make sure that tenants can get into houses, with reasonable restrictions, and we want to make sure that landlords are able to protect their investment and get rid of bad tenants, right, or non-paying, violating the lease tenants, whatever the case may be. So, we don't want the pendulum to swing too far one way or the other. We just like it to stay balanced, and unfortunately, sometimes as things do, right, they swing radically one side to the other, and when everybody really wants the middle, we just can't slow down the pendulum enough. So, we're really preaching that, and hopefully we can find that happy medium this legislative session.
It's all a circle.
And you made a really great point about the work that we do and how we do it. It's really important for us to, when we say have a seat at the table, but to also hear others' point of views, to actually sit down, listen, understand where other stakeholders are coming from. Because just as we're so passionate about advocating for private property rights and what that means for the consumer and what that means for our members, you have the other side who's just as passionate about whatever they're advocating for. And so that's something that's been very, very, very important to us as an organization, to hear the other point of views and to find compromise and to find common ground and to find some sort of balance, right? And that's everything we go into is what's a fair and balanced approach. So we're going into this not always, going in to win like every single thing we can. We're like, what's the most fair and balanced for all? So for
Mm.
tenant and landlord. So how do we talk through those things? And so you can truly understand this point of view to know that this is a fair and balanced approach. Because to your point, when anything swings too far one side, it's the unintended consequences and the impacts could be far greater, which we have seen happen over the years.
Yeah.
So what motivates you to, Chris and Azim, to give your time, volunteer your time like this? We're not asking Brandon because he's stuck with us and he's not going anywhere. So we're not going to even ask him. But like, because this is a lot of work. Like you're saying, you have stacks of bills you've to read every single week. Last night we were on the phone till 8:30 at night. So what motivates you, both of you, to do this?
Well, so I grew up in Canada, right? So I'm an immigrant to this country. I moved here when I was 19. Fascinated by the political system here. I just thought it was interesting. Canada has a parliamentary system. I won't get into the nuances of the differences and stuff, but the U.S. system obviously is quite different. I just got fascinated, interested in that, got sucked into politics and learned in the news and whatnot. And then one day Keith Lynham just grabbed me and was like, hey, you should get on this thing called BORPAC, and started with that. And then just through the encouragement from all.
For those that don't know.
Yeah, it's the Board of Realtors Political Action Committee. It's the $50 that I hope you didn't opt out of when you paid your
solicit non-solicitable class. So we'll talk about that later.
And the law gets in the way. Who hired a attorney as our CEO?
I don't know.
Fun filler.
Okay, pivoting to Chris. I'll try Chris.
But yeah, so
I need to be on these calls, you guys, in case you say no.
I asked you if the liability insurance was paid up. So
Probably not enough.
And then just love the political stuff, and just kind of continue to volunteer and find roles that I was interested in. And when people step up at the local and state level, there's not too many times where you're going to get told no, you can't volunteer. And here I am today, loving it. So I'm thoroughly enjoying what I'm doing. So
we love having you.
Well, I've got to say copious amounts of alcohol and an inability to say no. Why do I do this? No, seriously, this is the business I've chosen. And if you think politics doesn't affect our livelihood, you're crazy. And there's bills every session that could literally make it impossible for me to practice as a realtor or have a job as a broker or be able to do the career path that I love. And I think that I've seen so many sessions come and go where it's the worst session, the worst scenario possible, and we just make it out unscathed. And I don't want to, not be part of the discussion. And I think that's why I keep involving myself as long as they'll let me. But I think it is one of those important things that if you're a realtor out there practicing and you like what you do and you want to keep doing it, you better get involved. And whether you're getting involved financially or physically or participating in the conversation, that's the only way to ensure that you'll have an industry continue working.
Mm-hmm.
Cheers.
Brandon, why do you do what you do?
Because of smart people like them and the team you put around us, it makes me look good. Now, going into this legislation session, I thought being present through legislative, I was going to be a little bit nervous and stuff. But there's always the wild card of a bill here and there and stuff. But I really feel really confident about the team you put together, Tiffany, and the legislative management team and everything that's going on. I think we got the right people doing the right stuff and a lot of brilliant minds working and looking out for the interests of the realtors and the public out there. So
absolutely.
Why do you do it, Tiffany?
Why do I do this? I love what I do. I think from day one, and I think I've had many conversations with all of you. I know, Chris, I think back to years ago when I'd come to Vegas and we go to lunch and, just talk through. I've always loved helping others, whatever that looks like. And this position gives me the ability to help support you all in your business. Obviously, like it's a goal of mine to make sure that you have the revenue that you need, that you're putting food on the table for your families. But beyond that, to have such a footprint that we have the ability to have for the state of Nevada, for our homeowners, like for our renters, like for everybody that moves here. Some of my new employees that just moved here from California, and she's buying her first home here, and the excitement around that, and the encouragement of when I first chatted with her months ago of when you move to Nevada, this is what we hope we can support for you, the ability to have the dream of home ownership and actually seeing it. She gets her keys tomorrow. Like that's so exciting for me because I I love the feeling of having that safe environment, right? And that's what a home provides. It's that safe space that you can go to at the end of a hard day or the best day ever. And if you don't have that, it makes everything else a lot more challenging. So just to have a little part in that is why I do what I do, and getting to work with the brilliant minds that just make me look good so I can just show up. Uh, so I'm grateful for the three of you.
The other thing is we are like we're kind of the lobby for small business, I feel like, right? Like, we have 17, 18, 19,000 small businesses, right? Like every realtor's their own business, right? You're your own accountant, your own marketing person, your own salesperson, you're doing everything. And so, when I tell people, like, when you go to your hairdresser, like nobody's out lobbying for them, right? But we care about small business, right? Like taxes on services, all those things. So, I think we have a bigger footprint than we even think about sometimes, right? Like, yes, we have a lot of realtors that we're working on behalf of, obviously all the homeowners, right? Like we have 1 million plus homeowners in this state that we're working on behalf of. But then we're also working on behalf of all those like 1099, those independent contractor folks. So, it is what we do, I think, is really important. And we need to, we are pretty careful about making sure we're not screwing things up for other people and making it easy for ourselves. I think that's something else I think we do really well as a lobby. Like we really do care and are considerate about our community, not just our own interests.
Mhm. Absolutely. Chris, do you have anything else to add?
No,
Aside
I
from-
just the only thing we didn't touch on was the fact that we're not the R doesn't stand for Republican, and I think it's a great part of our organization that we don't care what party you're part of. We care that you're part of this realtor party, and that's where really how we look at the issues, and it's about how it affects everybody. And so I've had many members come up and say, "Well, why did you do this?" And I believe in this, and the state said this, and that's not how we roll. We're focused on the issues itself and how everyone can survive within them.
Yeah. Social issues are, as important as they are in our personal lives and to the community in general. Like those aren't battles that we're going to get into, right? We're like, said it countless times already on this podcast. We are here to make sure that realtors' rights are protected, realtors' industries, businesses protected, and we want to make sure that our community and private property rights are protected.
Yep.
Well, so what would a win for each of you look like at the end of this session? Azim?
Oh gosh, I would say that we continue to make sure that rent control doesn't become the law of the land here, right? We want to continue to fight rent control. So please visit www.truthaboutrentcontrol.com. Share that on your socials. There's some videos on there. We really want to make sure that doesn't happen. That's just going to kill development in this state, and it'll make everything more expensive. We have an affordability issue, right, in this state and all across the country. And rent control is not the solution for that, and is not going to help make things more affordable. I think that's a big thing. I think, we just, to clarify some of the brokerage agreement stuff we've talked about, and I know that's a little more nuanced maybe than generally people want to hear about, but, we want to make sure that we're all following the law, especially with the settlement and the realtor side of it. I think those are probably the two big wins, the two big issues that, we're facing. And we certainly want to, actually, no, I will say the other thing we want to do is we want to find solutions to make housing more affordable. So we've worked with the governor and a bunch of people on a work group to present, to help him come up with some ideas that he's going to present as part of a bill to make housing more affordable. We definitely had our hands on that. And, if that gets through, or at least some of those ideas even individually get through it in another way, I think that would be a big thing. Like, we want people to be able to buy and sell houses. And in this current environment, it's not as easy as it should be. So that would be the win.
I think to add on to what Azim said, everything, on those points, absolutely. And major change is not good when it comes from the state legislature. And so I think if we can make it through this session without any monumental major changes in our pro-business status that we currently have in the state, that we're not detrimental in any tax issues. Because that was the big fear for the last several sessions, is that they're just going to choke down taxes on everything that goes on real estate, on business, on everything else. And I think that while we understand things have to be paid for, the more that we add on in one threshold, the more problems it seems to cause as it circles out. We have a big issue coming on right now with Californians moving to Nevada, becoming Nevadans, which is great. But the last thing we want to do is completely change the makeup of the state and make it worse. So I think keeping things the same, making it through these sessions without any major changes, that'll be the pivot job for Azim to make this year out.
Yeah, I think, any business owner, if small business like us or big business that's on, NASDAQ or the Dow, they're going to tell you that they just want a stable environment, which is predictable. They want to know what they're able to do, and how they're going to be able to run their business and plan out for, some sort of midterm planning. And, if you have radical change every 2 years in this state, and, at the federal level, if you're changing every, on a whim, then it's not good for business, no matter what the policies are. So yeah, good point, Chris.
Well, thank you both for being on and giving our listeners a little bit of insight into what they can expect in the coming weeks and months, Brandon. And we have how many days left? 110, Azim?
Yeah, about that. So Chris, we're going to do a pre-show, like a comedy routine, a roast. What do you want to do?
I don't know. All I'm going to say is it's not soup yet. So don't worry about everything right away.
All right. Well, I'll write the jokes and you have the content. We'll be good.
Thank you all. And then what our listeners can expect is we'll have Azim and Chris on every single week. I'll pop on if I can. Brandon will pop on, and then we'll have some special guests throughout the next several months popping on and being part of the conversation. The goal, again, is just to keep you all as updated and as informed as you can, so you can be out there sharing whatever we need you to share, if it's about rent control or it can just be champions. Feel empowered in yourselves when you talk to your clients, when you talk to other agents, that what's going on that impacts your world and your client's world. So thank you so much.